My son's mother-in-law pushed my plate away and yelled, "Poor people do not sit here." I just smiled, grabbed my purse, and walked out of the restaurant without looking back. I made a single phone call from outside. 10 minutes later, the manager walked up to her table, and what he said made her shake with fear. But let me back up, because to understand why that woman ended up trembling in front of the entire Belvedere restaurant, you first have to know who I really am. Not the woman they thought they knew. Not the poor mother-in-law they despised, but the person I silently became while everyone was looking the other way. My name is Evelyn Hayes. My friends call me Evie, and I wear my 68 years with pride. I live in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Bridgeport, a working-class neighborhood in Chicago. The walls have cracks I never bothered to fix. The hardwood floor creaks at night, and from my window, I can see the street where every morning Mr. Henderson sells coffee and hot bagels from his rusty food cart. To anyone who walks in here, I am just an ordinary widow, a woman surviving on her late husband's pension, who shops at the corner grocery store, who looks for the best deals on tomatoes, who saves glass jars because you never know when you might need them. I wear cotton blouses I bought 10 years ago. My shoes have worn soles but are well taken care of. There are no visible luxuries, no showing off. And that is exactly what I want them to see. Because the truth, the real truth, is very different. I inherited something from my husband, Thomas, that no one imagined. When he died 12 years ago, everyone assumed he left me barely enough to survive. What they did not know is that Thomas and I built, in absolute silence, a restaurant chain. 12 locations spread all over the city, from discreet little diners on the South Side to upscale, elegant restaurants in the Gold Coast. Hayes Hospitality Group, valued at $45 million, and I am the sole owner. Why did I never say anything? Because Thomas's death taught me a painful lesson. When people know you have money, they change. Their smiles become self-serving. Their hugs become calculated. Their words are rehearsed. I saw distant relatives appear out of nowhere, asking for loans they never intended to pay back. I saw how they looked at me like a walking ATM. So I made a decision. I kept the secret. I lived simply. I let the world see me as a humble widow. And I watched. I watched who visited me without expecting anything in return. Who called me just to ask how my day was going. Who loved me for being Evelyn, not for what Evelyn could give them. My only son, Lucas, does not know the full truth either. He is 35 years old. He is an architect, an honest man who works hard. I taught him to value hard work, not an inheritance. He knows his father left him something, but he thinks it is barely enough for my quiet retirement. And me? I preferred it that way. I wanted him to build his life with his own 2 hands, not waiting for his mother to pass away so he could live off trust funds. Lucas was always a good son. He visited me every Sunday. He brought me fresh blueberry muffins from my favorite bakery. He would sit with me, drinking black coffee while telling me about his projects. I raised him alone after Thomas died. They were difficult years, but beautiful. I thought I had raised him well, until he met Chloe. At first, she seemed charming. A wide smile, a sweet voice, impeccable manners. Lucas was in love, and I just wanted to see him happy. So I kept my first impressions to myself. That gleam in her eyes when she measured my apartment with her gaze. That way of touching my furniture as if it were contagious. That comment about my blouse. "Oh, mother-in-law, are you still wearing clothes from the 90s? How sweet." I bit my tongue. For my son. Always for my son. They got married 3 years ago. The wedding was at an elegant botanical garden in the suburbs. Chloe insisted that I did not need to help with the expenses, with that tone that made it clear my help would be insignificant anyway. During the ceremony, she tried to put me in the back rows for the family photos. "It is just that you clash with the bridesmaids' colors, mother-in-law. It is better if you stay back here, okay?" Lucas did not say anything. He just squeezed my hand and whispered, "Mom, it is her day. Let's just let her be happy." And I did, because a mother's love is unconditional. Or so I thought back then. But things got worse. The family Sundays started getting canceled. "Oh, mother-in-law, we have plans." The phone calls became more scarce. "Lucas is really busy." Should I tell him to call you back later? And when I called, I would hear Chloe in the background. Your mom again. Tell her you are in a meeting. I swallowed the sadness. I dissolved it in my morning coffee. I hid it behind my smile when I finally did see them. I did not want to be the difficult mother-in-law, the one causing problems, the one who exaggerates. But then, I met Victoria Sterling, Chloe's mother. And right there, I understood where it all came from. What happened when that woman walked into my life? What words came out of her mouth the first time we met? You will find that out in just a moment. I should have seen it from the beginning. The signs were there, as bright as neon lights in the dark. But a mother's love is blind. Or worse, it chooses not to see. On the day of the wedding, I arrived early at the garden. I was wearing a burgundy tailored suit I had custom made, especially for the occasion. Nothing flashy, but dignified. Elegant. I felt good, even excited. I was going to watch my only son marry the woman he loved. What more could I ask for? Chloe appeared wrapped in tulle and lace, radiant, as every bride should be. But when she saw me, her perfect smile wavered for just a second. Her eyes looked me up and down, and I knew I had failed some invisible test. "Mother-in-law," she said, approaching with measured steps. "What an interesting outfit. Interesting. That word people use when they cannot say what they really think." "Thank you, sweetie," I replied, trying to hug her, but she stepped back slightly, barely touching my shoulder. "Careful with the makeup. It has not set yet." The photographer started organizing the family for photos. Chloe stood in the center, surrounded by her parents, her sisters, her cousins. An army of beautiful people with coordinated pastel dresses. I stood to the side, waiting for my turn. "All right, now the photos with the groom's family," the photographer announced. Chloe raised a hand. "Wait, let's do the photos with just Lucas and his groomsmen first, the others later." I stood there, holding my purse, feeling like a piece of furniture in the way during a move. Lucas looked for me, and I could see the discomfort on his face. But Chloe had already taken him by the arm, dragging him toward the center garden where the light was perfect. They took 20 photos, 30, 50, with the groomsmen, with the groom's friends, with the venue's dog, for crying out loud. When they finally called me, the photographer was already packing up the main equipment. Just a few quick ones with the cell phone, Chloe said with that sweet voice that was already starting to sound fake to me. "It is getting late, and the guests are starting to arrive." 3 photos. They took 3 photos of me with my son on his wedding day. But I swallowed it. I smiled, I clapped when they said, "I do." I cried when they kissed, because despite everything, my son looked happy. And his happiness was the only thing that mattered to me. Or was it? The first few months were an almost perfect illusion. Lucas visited me, though less often. He called me, though the calls were shorter. "I have to hang up, Mom. Chloe is waiting for me for dinner." Always Chloe waiting. Always Chloe needing something. Always Chloe first. I started noticing the little things. When I spoke, Chloe checked her phone. When I told a story, she yawned without covering her mouth. When I brought over food I had cooked for them, she would leave it in the fridge until it spoiled. "Oh, mother-in-law, we are actually on a diet, but thank you." Sundays, our sacred tradition since Lucas was a little boy, started to disappear. First it was, "Mom, we cannot make it this Sunday. Chloe has a family get-together." Then, we got invited to brunch with her friends. Then, "Maybe another day, okay? We just really want to rest." They went from every Sunday to twice a month. Then to once a month. And finally, to "We will let you know when we are free." One afternoon, I decided to drop by without warning. I brought the slow-cooked pot roast Lucas loved so much, the one that took me hours to make with fresh herbs from the farmer's market. I rang the doorbell of their upscale apartment in Lincoln Park. Lucas opened the door in sweatpants, surprised. "Mom, I did not know you were coming. I wanted to surprise you guys," I said, holding up the container. "I made your favorite pot roast." Behind him, Chloe appeared wrapped in a silk robe. She looked at me as if I had interrupted something sacred. "Mother-in-law, how unexpected." "I can just drop this off and leave," I offered, suddenly feeling like an intruder in my own son's life. "No, Mom, come in," Lucas said. But Chloe already had that expression, the one I was starting to recognize. "We actually have plans, honey," she told Lucas, completely ignoring me. "Remember? We are going to the movies with Danielle and her husband." Lucas blinked, confused. "Today? I thought that was tomorrow." "No, sweetheart. It is today, at 6 o'clock, and it is already 5. She was lying. I knew it by the way she avoided my gaze. I knew it by the way her fingers nervously tapped on the doorframe. She was making up an excuse to get me to leave. I stayed for 15 minutes, just enough time to drop off the roast, drink a glass of water no one offered me, and listen to Chloe talking loudly on her phone. "Yeah, I know we are running late. An unexpected visitor just showed up." Every word was loaded with annoyance. When I walked out of that apartment, with my empty purse and a heavy heart, I cried in the elevator. I cried on the subway. I cried at home, sitting on my worn-out couch, wondering at what point I had become an unexpected visitor in my son's life. But the worst came later. One afternoon, I went to the grocery store near their house. I needed to pick up a few things, and I used it as an excuse to walk around their neighborhood, secretly hoping to run into them, hoping for one of those lucky coincidences where you can share a cup of coffee without it feeling like you are begging for attention. I was in the dairy aisle when I heard her. Chloe's voice, unmistakable. I peeked out just a little, hiding behind a yogurt promotional display. She was with 2 friends, pushing her cart, laughing. "You have no idea how unbearable she is," Chloe was saying. "She shows up unannounced, like our house is a motel. She brings food nobody asked for. She just stands there waiting for us to invite her to stay for dinner." One of her friends laughed. "Ugh, all mother-in-laws are the same. They think just because they gave birth to the guy, they have eternal rights. The worst part is Lucas does not get it," Chloe continued. "I tell him to set boundaries, but he is so soft with her. He says she is alone, that she lost her husband, and I am just like, tell her to make some friends, join a country club, go to church, whatever, but do not make us her entire life. It is suffocating. Suffocating." That word pierced my chest like a rusty nail. I walked out of that grocery store without buying a single thing. I wandered down the street aimlessly. I reached a park and sat on a bench, watching the pigeons fight over breadcrumbs. Suffocating? Me? The woman who had sacrificed everything to give my son the best education, who had worked tirelessly alongside my husband to build a future, who now lived in silence, waiting for just a few crumbs of his time. I was suffocating? That night, Lucas called me. "Mom, are you okay? I called you 3 times. "I am fine, sweetie. Just tired. Do you want me to come see you?" I wanted to scream yes. I wanted to beg him to come, to hold him, and feel like I was still his mom, not a burden. But then I heard Chloe's voice in the background. "Lucas, dinner is getting cold." "No, son, get some rest. We will catch up another day." I hung up before he could answer. I sat in my kitchen with the lights off, feeling the silence eat me alive. Outside, I could hear the noise of the city. Inside, there was only emptiness, but I did not know yet that this was only the beginning. Because 6 months after that conversation in the grocery store, I would meet the person who would make Chloe's snubs look like affection. The woman who would teach me the true meaning of humiliation, Chloe's mother, Victoria Sterling. And when that woman walked into my life, everything, absolutely everything, got worse in ways I never imagined possible. Chloe had mentioned her mother countless times, my mom says. My mom thinks. My mom has always been very strict about quality, as if every opinion from that woman was a divine commandment. But it took 6 months for her to introduce us, and now I understand why. It was on Lucas's birthday. Chloe organized an intimate dinner at their apartment. When I arrived, carrying the homemade vanilla cake my son had loved since he was a little boy, she opened the door with a smile that did not reach her eyes. "Mother-in-law, so glad you made it. I want you to meet my mom." And there she was. Victoria Sterling did not just enter a room. She made an entrance, as if the walls should bow as she passed. She was 60 years old, but dressed as if she were daring time itself to contradict her. An ivory suit that screamed old money, stiletto heels that echoed on the floor, a pearl necklace so large it looked like armor. Her hair, dyed an impossibly even shade of brunette, was pulled back into a flawless chignon. She was wearing sunglasses inside the apartment. Sunglasses. At 7 o'clock in the evening, she took them off slowly, letting her eyes scan me with the subtlety of an airport security scanner. "So, you are Evelyn," she said. Not a question, a verification. I held out my hand. "A pleasure to meet you, ma'am. Chloe talks about you a lot." She looked at my hand as if I had offered her a rotten fish. After 3 eternal seconds, she barely brushed my fingers with hers. 3 seconds. I counted them. "Have a seat, Mom," Chloe said, pointing to the main armchair, the most comfortable one, the one I usually sat in when I visited my son. Victoria settled in with calculated movements, crossing her legs, placing her designer Birkin bag on the coffee table like someone planting a flag on conquered territory. I stood there, still holding the cake, until Lucas walked out of the kitchen. "Mom!" He hugged me, and in that moment I forgot everything else. "You brought the cake. I knew you would not let me down." "Of course not, my love. Happy birthday." "How sweet." Victoria called out from her throne. "Homemade cake, just like in the country." The venom in that sentence was so pure I could almost taste it. Dinner was an interrogation disguised as polite conversation. Victoria handled her questions the way a corporate lawyer handles witness testimonies. "Tell me, Evelyn, what did your husband do for a living?" "Thomas had a food business." "Oh." A pause. "Something large or more?" "Mom and pop?" "Successful," I replied, measuring my words. "It allowed us to live with dignity." "Dignity?" Victoria repeated, tasting the word as if it were sour. "What a cute concept. I always tell Chloe, you have to aspire to more than just dignity. You have to aspire to excellence." Lucas tried to change the subject. "And how is your business going, Victoria?" She lit up, wonderfully. "I just finished organizing the wedding for the Harrington girl. Do you know them? The owners of those high-rises downtown. 500 guests. A budget of over $100,000. All under my direction." She spoke as if she had built the Egyptian pyramids all by herself. "My mom is the most exclusive event planner in the area," Chloe added, with a tone of admiration she never used with me. What they did not say is what I would find out later. That Victoria planned small parties for acquaintances, modest events that she inflated with pompous words. That the Harrington wedding was actually for a distant cousin of someone with that last name, and her involvement was limited to booking the banquet hall. That her exclusive business ran out of her living room, with no office, no employees, and nothing more than a contact book and a whole lot of fake prestige. But that night, sitting in my son's apartment, I knew none of that. I only saw a woman who looked at me the way you look at a bug on the bottom of your shoe. After dinner, while Lucas was cutting the cake, Victoria approached me in the kitchen. I was washing a few dishes because my hands need to stay busy when I am nervous. "Let me ask you something, Evelyn," she said, leaning against the counter with the posture of someone about to drop a bomb. "How exactly do you support yourself now? Because I understand your husband passed away years ago." "From my own resources, Victoria." "Resources?" She raised an eyebrow. "What kind of resources?" "Enough to fund my life." "I see." She looked me up and down again. "It is just that I worry, you know? Chloe tells me that Lucas still helps you out financially from time to time. And well, the kids are going to have baby expenses soon." She placed a hand on her chest, completely theatrical. "I would hate for my daughter and son-in-law to find themselves struggling just to support." Well, you know what I mean. I felt my blood boil, but I kept my voice calm. "Lucas does not support me." "Ma'am, I have never asked him for a single dollar." "Oh, sure, sure." She smiled, that shark smile I would see so many times later. "Do not take it the wrong way. I am just looking out for my daughter. Because raising Chloe cost me a fortune, you know. Private schools, trips to Europe, etiquette classes, not just anyone can afford those luxuries. Etiquette. The irony. Because in that exact moment, standing in that kitchen, with her pearl necklace and expensive suit, Victoria Sterling was proving to me that all the money in the world cannot buy class. "I am sure you did an excellent job," I said, drying my hands. "Yes, well, you do what you can with what you have." She gave me a condescending pat on the shoulder. "Not all of us can give our children the best, but you did what you could with your limitations." Limitations. That woman had no idea. She was standing in the kitchen of an apartment I could buy 20 times over without blinking. That the homemade cake she sneered at had more expensive ingredients than her entire exclusive event operation. That the limitations she kept mentioning were pure fantasy born of her classist mind. But I said nothing, because I still, stupidly, believed that keeping the peace was more important than defending my dignity. When Victoria left that night, she kissed Chloe affectionately, gave Lucas a calculated hug, and to me, she extended 2 fingers for a handshake. 2 fingers, like handing spare change to a beggar. It was a pleasure, Evelyn. I hope we see each other soon. The way she said hope made it very clear she was hoping for the exact opposite. Lucas walked me to the door. What did you think of Victoria? I looked at my son, my only son, the boy I had raised to be kind, fair, and honest, and I saw that he was waiting for me to say something nice. Interesting, I replied, using the exact same word Chloe had used for my wedding suit. He smiled, relieved. I am glad you guys get along. Chloe was nervous her mom would not like you. Nervous, right? That is why Victoria showed up with her full arsenal of insults. Just nerves. That night, in the taxi ride home, I looked out the window at the city lights. And I knew, with the certainty that only age brings, that I had met my enemy. What I did not know then was how far she was willing to go, or how much it was going to hurt discovering it. The following months were like walking through a minefield. Every family gathering became an opportunity for Victoria and Chloe to remind me in 1,000 subtle ways that I did not belong in their world. The first major incident happened 3 weeks after meeting Victoria. Chloe organized a casual family lunch at a restaurant in the Gold Coast. Casual, sure, like everything she did. The place had valet parking and a menu with no prices. I arrived 15 minutes before the agreed time. I have always been punctual. It is one of those things my mother taught me. Other people's time is worth just as much as yours, Evie. The table was already set. 8 perfectly arranged seats, ivory linens, crystal glasses, gleaming silverware. Victoria was already sitting at the head of the table, next to Chloe. When she saw me walk in, her smile froze for just a second, the kind of pause that tells you your presence was not part of the original plan. Mother-in-law, you are early, Chloe said without standing up. I like to be on time. How disciplined, Victoria muttered without looking at me. She was busy inspecting her perfect manicure. I sat at one end of the table, where there was still an empty spot, where nobody had to move to make room for me. Lucas arrived 10 minutes later with a coworker. Then came 2 of Chloe's cousins I had never met, laughing about something on their phones. Once everyone was seated, the waiter started pouring water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 full glasses, and my place setting was completely empty. I looked at the table. 8 people, 7 place settings. The waiter realized it and apologized immediately. Excuse me, ma'am. I will be right back with your silverware. But before he could move, Victoria raised a hand. Wait a moment. She turned to me with an exaggerated look of surprise that only bad actors use. Oh, Evelyn, are you staying to eat? I thought you were just dropping by to say hello. The silence that followed was as thick as swamp water. Lucas frowned. Mom is invited, Victoria. That is why she is here. Oh yes, of course, of course. Victoria waved her hand like she was shooing away a fly. It is just that Chloe told me you probably could not make it, Evelyn, that you had errands to run. That is why we did not ask for a setting for you. But anyway, since you are here, she turned to the waiter. Bring her what she needs, though I do not know if there will be enough food. We ordered for 7. Not a problem. The waiter intervened professionally. I will bring the silverware right away. But the damage was already done. Chloe's cousins exchanged glances. Lucas's coworker suddenly found his napkin incredibly interesting. And I just sat there, feeling the heat rise to my face. Not out of shame, out of sheer anger. Chloe did not even defend me. She just said, "Oh, Mom, I am sure it was just a mix-up." But she was smiling. That tiny little smirk that tells you the mix-up was absolutely intentional. I ate that afternoon with the silverware that arrived 5 minutes later. The food tasted like ash. Every bite was an effort. Every conversation where Victoria participated, completely ignoring me, was a silent stab. When they asked about my life, my home, my days, Victoria would yawn openly, without covering her mouth, as if my very existence was the most boring spectacle in the world. "And what do you do for fun, Evelyn?" one of the cousins asked, trying to be polite. "I read a lot. I go to the farmer's market. I visit some friends in my neighborhood." "How quaint," Victoria interrupted. "I would never have the patience for such a simple life. I need constant stimulation. Charity galas, networking events, interesting people. As if I were an old piece of furniture that still functions but nobody wants in their living room anymore." Lucas tried to change the subject, talking about his job, a new project he was designing. But even then, Victoria found a way to twist the invisible knife. "You must feel so proud, Evelyn. Your son became a professional despite his circumstances. As if I had been an obstacle he had to overcome, not the mother who worked double shifts to pay for his college tuition." I bit my tongue. Literally, I tasted metallic blood in my mouth. But the worst was yet to come. 2 months later, Chloe announced she was pregnant. I got the news over the phone. They did not even tell me in person. Lucas called one afternoon, thrilled, and I cried tears of joy. I was going to be a grandmother. After so many years, after so much loneliness, I would have a little person to love. "Mom is going to throw the baby shower," Lucas told me. "It is going to be a big deal. Victoria is super excited." Victoria, of course. Victoria organizing. Victoria deciding. Victoria in control of everything. "When is it?" I asked. "So I can clear my schedule." "April 23rd. I will send you the invite via text." I waited. A week passed. 2 weeks. Nothing. I texted Lucas. "Son, I never got the invitation." Victoria mailed out physical invitations. "It should get to you soon." It arrived on April 24th, the day after the event. The envelope was addressed to the wrong house number, 847 Elm Street. I live at 487 Elm Street. An error so convenient it hurt. I called Lucas immediately. "Son, the invitation was sent to the wrong address. The baby shower was yesterday, wasn't it?" There was a pause. "Mom, yeah. We thought you did not want to come. Since you did not RSVP, I never got the invitation on time." Another pause. Longer this time. "Let me talk to Chloe." He did not call back that day, or the next. When he finally did, 3 days later, his voice sounded exhausted. "It was a post office error, Mom. Victoria feels terrible about it." "Terrible?" "Sure. I saw the photos on Facebook. 80 people. Pink and gold decorations. A 3-tier dessert table. Victoria in the center of every picture, glowing, accepting congratulations as if she were the one pregnant. And me? I was not even tagged, as if I had never existed. But I told myself, when the baby is born, everything will change. When I hold my granddaughter in my arms, none of this will matter." How naive I was. On September 14th, at 3:42 in the morning, Harper, my granddaughter, was born. 8 pounds of perfection wrapped in a pink blanket. Lucas called me crying with joy. "Mom, she is here. She is beautiful. Come to the hospital." I got dressed, shaking with excitement. I did not even brush my hair properly. I grabbed the first taxi I could find. I made it to Northwestern Memorial Hospital in 30 minutes. I ran up to the 4th floor, maternity ward, room 412. When I got to the door, Victoria was standing there, blocking the entrance. "Evelyn." She did not greet me. She just said my name, like someone identifying a package. "I am here to meet my granddaughter. Visitors are strictly for immediate family only." She crossed her arms. "Chloe just had a C-section. She needs peace and quiet. Crowds stress her out. I am her grandmother. I am family. Immediate family," she repeated. Every word was a stone. "You can see the baby another day. When Chloe is feeling better." When there are fewer people around, I looked over her shoulder. Inside the room there were at least 10 people. Chloe's sisters, her cousins, her dad, her aunt. Everyone holding Harper, passing her from arm to arm, taking selfies. Victoria. My voice broke. Please. I am sorry. She did not sound sorry at all. Chloe's orders. She does not want any extra visitors today. Lucas appeared at the door right then. When he saw me, his face lit up. Mom, come in. Come meet Harper. But Victoria stopped him with a hand on his chest. Lucas, we already talked about this. Chloe needs to rest. She cannot handle a crowd. And my son? My son who should have defended me. Who should have said, this is my mother and she is coming in. He just nodded weakly. Mom, maybe it is better if you come tomorrow. Chloe is really exhausted. I stood in that hospital hallway, holding the stuffed giraffe I had bought for my granddaughter, with tears burning my eyes, watching Victoria shut the door in my face. And in that moment, something inside me broke, but I still did not know how much more I could shatter. For 3 months after Harper was born, I lived in a strange limbo. I saw my granddaughter in tiny increments. 15 minutes here, half an hour there. Always when it was convenient for Chloe. Always supervised. As if I were a dangerous stranger instead of her grandmother. Every night, I went to bed with a knot in my stomach. The sleeping pills the doctor prescribed stopped working. I started waking up at 3 in the morning, my heart racing, sweating. I thought about Lucas, about Harper, about how they had erased me from their lives without anyone lifting a finger to stop it. I stopped eating right. Why cook when you are alone? My famous pot roast lost its meaning. The homemade cookie dough stayed in the freezer until it was freezer burned. I drank black coffee in the mornings, and sometimes that was all I had until night. Stress has a silent way of collecting its debts. One December afternoon, I was folding laundry in my bedroom. I had just washed the sheets and the smell of fabric softener filled the apartment. Outside, I could hear the kids in the building playing in the courtyard. Happy voices, laughter. Suddenly, the room started spinning. The walls shifted like they were made of water. My legs turned to cotton. I tried to grab onto the nightstand, but my hands wouldn't respond. The last thing I remember is the hardwood floor rushing up to meet my face. I woke up to the sound of sirens. Mrs. Higgins, my neighbor from apartment 302, was kneeling next to me. The ambulance is coming, Evie, hang in there, don't go to sleep. What happened? My voice sounded thick, distant. You passed out. I knocked on your door to borrow some sugar and I heard you fall. I had to get Frank to open the door. The paramedics arrived. Bright lights, rapid-fire questions. They lifted me onto a stretcher. Everything was blurry, like watching the world through a fogged-up window. In the ambulance, one of them checked my blood pressure. It is through the roof. Are you diabetic, ma'am? No. Are you sure? I was not sure of anything in that moment. They called Lucas. He was the only emergency contact listed on my ID. He rushed to the hospital 40 minutes later, looking frantic. He ran over to the gurney where they were hooking me up to an IV. Mom, what happened? Are you okay? I tried to smile, to calm him down. But the tears came first. I am fine, sweetie. Just a scare. The doctor walked over with a tablet full of numbers I did not understand. Mrs. Hayes, we need to run a full panel of tests. Your blood sugar is at 380. That is dangerously high. 380. The number hung in the air like toxic smoke. What does that mean? Lucas asked. It means your mother has advanced diabetes. Based on these levels, it has likely been developing for months without treatment. But she never said anything. Often the symptoms are confused with fatigue or stress. The doctor looked right at me. Have you been under a lot of stress lately, ma'am? I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. I wanted to say, stress? You mean apart from being treated like garbage by my son's family? But I just said, a little. They admitted me to stabilize my levels, a shared room on the 3rd floor. The bed next to mine was empty, covered in white sheets that smelled like bleach. Lucas stayed with me, holding my hand, apologizing for things that were not his fault. I should have noticed, Mom. I should have visited more. I should have. It is not your fault, son. But it was. A little bit. It was everyone's fault. At 8 o'clock that night, Chloe and Victoria arrived. I heard them before I saw them. The sound of Victoria's heels clicking down the hallway like hammers. They walked into the room carrying an expensive perfume that clashed violently with the smell of antiseptic. Lucas, you need to go home. Chloe said without even looking at me. Harper has not stopped crying. She needs you. But my mom, your mom is fine. Look at her. She is awake. She is conscious. The doctors are taking care of her. Go home. I will stay here. A lie. We both knew it was a lie. But Lucas was exhausted, worried, torn between two women pulling him in opposite directions. Will you be okay, Mom? I nodded. Because that is what mothers do. We lie so our children will not suffer. Lucas left, and I was left alone with them. Victoria walked over to the window, staring out at the street as if the view fascinated her. What a stark place. I have never been in a public hospital. It is a good hospital, I said, my voice barely a whisper. She turned to me. Evelyn, forgive me for being blunt, but you have to take better care of yourself. At your age, and with your lifestyle, the body keeps score. My lifestyle. As if living simply was a disease. Chloe was standing by the door, talking on her phone loud enough for me to hear. No, Mom, it is nothing serious. You know how older people are. Every little thing and they panic. A nurse walked by, adjusting my IV. She looked at me with pity. That kind of pity they give you when they know you are surrounded by people who do not love you. Victoria sat in the chair next to my bed, crossing her legs. Do you know what I think, Evelyn? I think this is stress, pure stress. And stress comes from not keeping busy. You should get out more, find some hobbies, instead of staying cooped up in that apartment waiting for Lucas to call. Every word was a needle sliding under my skin. I do not wait around. Of course you do. She smiled. That condescending smile I knew all too well by now. And that generates anxiety, which generates stress, which generates this. She pointed at my body hooked up to machines as if it were evidence in a trial. Chloe walked back into the room. Lucas just got home. I am heading out too. Are you coming, Mom? In a minute. Victoria stood up, smoothing her spotless skirt. She leaned over my bed, bringing her face close to mine, and with a voice so low only I could hear, she said, Stop looking for attention, Evelyn. Lucas has his own family now. Stop being a burden. She backed away before I could reply, before I could even process what she had just said. But then I heard something worse. They were in the hallway. I could see their shadows cast on the wall, and their voices drifted clearly through the cracked door. Do you think it is serious? Chloe asked. Oh, please. Victoria's laugh was pure ice. This is emotional manipulation, typical of lonely mother-in-laws. They fake illnesses so their kids pay attention to them. You will see. Tomorrow she will be perfectly fine. Lucas is really worried. That is exactly why she does it. Your husband is very noble, too noble, and she knows it, so she uses him. I waited. I waited for Chloe to say something, to defend me, to say, hey, she is his mother, she is actually sick. But what she said was, you are right, she always pulls this. Whenever we go a while without seeing her, she pops up with some new drama. I lay frozen in that bed, monitors beeping around me, the IV dripping a steady rhythm. And me, I felt something fundamental crack inside of me. It was not my heart, it was something deeper. It was hope, that last spark of hope that had kept me enduring the humiliations, swallowing my words, smiling when I wanted to scream. That night, after they left, I cried in that hospital bed until I ran out of tears. I cried for the mother I had been, for the grandmother they would not let me be, for the invisible woman I had become. And for the first time in my life, I wondered if I had failed. If I had failed as a mother by raising a son who could not stand up for me. If I had been so insignificant that I deserved this treatment. If all this pain was my fault for being, what? Poor? Simple? Old? The night nurse found me crying at 3 a.m. Are you in pain, ma'am? I can page the doctor. No, I whispered. My body does not hurt. She understood. She squeezed my hand and did not say another word. Sometimes, silence is the only medicine for certain kinds of pain. But what they did not know, what none of them could possibly imagine, was that that night in the hospital had not broken me. It had transformed me. Because there is a point where pain stops destroying you and starts forging you, where humiliation turns into fuel. where you decide that enough is enough. And me, I had just reached that point. I left the hospital 3 days later with a bag full of prescriptions and a list of things I needed to change in my life. A strict diet, moderate exercise, reduce stress. Reduce stress. The doctor said it like it was as easy as changing the TV channel. Lucas visited me twice during those weeks of recovery. Chloe never came. Victoria didn't either, but they sent flowers, a small arrangement with a card that read, "Speedy recovery, the Sterling family." They didn't even bother to write my name. I threw them in the trash. 2 weeks went by when Lucas called me with a proposal. "Mom, I want us to have lunch together, all 4 of us. You, me, Chloe, and Victoria, as a family." My first instinct was to say no, to make up an excuse. But then I heard something in his voice, something that sounded like a plea, a desperate need for everything to be okay between the people he loved. "Where?" I asked. "At the Belvedere, in the Gold Coast. Saturday at 2 o'clock. The Belvedere, one of the restaurants in my chain. One of the most elegant, with imported linen tablecloths and antique silver cutlery, with a chef who had won international awards, with a 2-month waiting list to get a table that I could secure with 1 phone call. On Saturday, I got dressed carefully, nothing flashy, an ivory cotton blouse a friend had given me, brown slacks I wore to the farmer's market, comfortable shoes, my worn leather purse, the one that used to be my mother's, with that ink stain I could never wash out, but that reminded me of her handwriting in the letters she used to send. I looked in the mirror. 68 years stared back at me, wrinkles that told stories. Gray hair I had stopped dyeing years ago, working hands with pronounced veins, and for the first time in months, I liked what I saw, because that woman had survived. She had built something. She had loved, and she did not deserve to be treated like garbage. I arrived at the Belvedere right at 2 o'clock. The valet offered to park a car that did not exist. I took an Uber, I told him. He looked me up and down with that expression I already knew, the one that says, "What is this old lady doing here?" Inside, the restaurant was exactly as I remembered it. Cream-colored walls, crystal chandeliers throwing tiny rainbows everywhere, the elegant murmur of hushed conversations, the clinking of wine glasses. Nicholas Vance, my general manager, was by the bar checking something on his tablet. He saw me and his eyes lit up. He started walking toward me, but I gave him a discreet nod. Not yet. Lucas was already at the table. Table 12, the one by the window overlooking the indoor garden. He stood up when he saw me, smiling. "Mom, you look great. Thank you, son." Victoria and Chloe arrived 15 minutes late, because important people are always late. It is part of the show. Victoria was wearing a champagne-colored dress that probably cost more than she made in 3 months. Chloe wore a black outfit with heels so high she walked like a newborn deer, both wearing sunglasses they did not take off until they sat down. "Evelyn," Victoria said as a greeting. Not even a good afternoon, just my name, like identifying a package. We sat down. The waiter brought the menus, prices that made Victoria raise her eyebrows, impressed. "What an exclusive place, Lucas. How on earth did you get a table here?" "I have my contacts," he said, winking at me. Contacts. If only he knew. We ordered. Victoria ordered the most expensive cut of steak. Chloe ordered a salad because she was watching her post-baby figure. Lucas ordered pasta. I ordered the baked salmon with roasted vegetables. The food arrived on those massive white plates where the presentation is worth more than the appetite. Everything was perfect. Everything was calculated. Exactly as I had instructed my chefs. We were halfway through the meal when it happened. Victoria picked up her wine glass and looked at me over the rim. "Evelyn, I am just curious. How do you pay for meals at places like this? Because this must cost." "What? $100 a person?" $150 to be exact. I knew that because I had designed the menu with the chef. "I manage," I replied. "Sure, but seriously, on your pension." She left the sentence hanging, waiting for me to feel obligated to explain my financial life to her. I didn't. That irritated her. I saw her clench her jaw, her fingers drumming on the tablecloth. And then she did it. She reached out. She grabbed my plate. She shoved it roughly toward the center of the table, causing my fork to clatter loudly enough to make the nearby tables turn their heads. Poor people do not sit here. Her voice sliced through the restaurant like a knife. This is a place for people of class. People who understand what elegance means. Not for. She looked me up and down. Not for people who just crawled out of a discount market. The silence that followed was absolute. Everyone in the restaurant was staring at us. A waiter froze mid-pour at another table. The sommelier stopped breathing. Even the background music seemed to halt. Chloe laughed. A nervous laugh, but a laugh nonetheless. Mother-in-law, just know your place. This isn't a soup kitchen. I looked at Lucas, waiting, begging for him to say something. Anything. He sat there mute, paralyzed. His mouth open, his eyes wide, like a child witnessing a car crash and not knowing what to do. And something inside me, something that had been cracking for months, finally shattered, but not inward, outward. I stood up, slowly, with the dignity of someone who has lived too long to let anyone steal the last thing they have left. I took a deep breath. The air smelled of expensive food and even more expensive perfume. You are right, I said. My voice was calm, steady, unwavering. There are places where I do not belong. I picked up my purse. That worn-out purse they despised so much. But not because I am poor. I looked them directly in the eyes, first Victoria, then Chloe. But because I have dignity, something neither of you could buy with all the money in the world. I walked toward the exit, head held high, back straight, firm steps. I heard Lucas stand up. Mom, wait. But I did not stop. I walked out of the restaurant. The cool afternoon air hit my face. There was a large oak tree outside, its autumn leaves falling onto the sidewalk. I stopped beneath its shade. I pulled out my phone. I dialed a number saved as office emergency. Nicholas Vance answered on the second ring. Mrs. Hayes, is everything all right? Nick, I am right outside the Belvedere. I need you to come out personally. Right now. Table 12. Bring Julian with you and the VIP reservation book. Is there a problem? Let's just say it is time some people met the real owner of the restaurants they love to show off in. I could hear his grin through the phone. On my way. 3 minutes. I hung up. I sat on a park bench across the street. From there, I could see the entrance to the restaurant, see the movement inside, see the silhouettes of Victoria and Chloe celebrating their petty little victory, celebrating that they had finally humiliated me, celebrating that they had finally put me in my place. I looked at my reflection in the phone screen, and I smiled, because for 40 years I built an empire in silence. I tolerated their contempt out of love for my son. I made myself invisible because I thought it would protect me. But today they crossed a line they didn't even know existed, and I was not going to be invisible anymore. Never again. From my bench in the park, I watched the entrance to the Belvedere like someone watching a play waiting for the final act. Leaves fell around me, forming a golden carpet on the concrete. The late afternoon sun painted everything gold, almost poetic, almost perfect, almost justice. I pulled a tissue from my purse and wiped a tear that had escaped. Not from sadness, from pure rage. Indignation crystallized in salt water. 40 years building what I had. Being prudent, being invisible. Thomas and I worked 14-hour days when we opened our first diner. A tiny little place on the south side that barely anyone knew about. We washed the dishes ourselves after closing. We counted every penny. We dreamed of every expansion. When Thomas died, everyone expected me to sell. What do you want a business for, Evelyn? You are a woman. You are a widow. You don't understand these things. But I proved them wrong. Without making any noise. Without showing off. Just by working. I bought the second restaurant. Then the third. Then a small failing chain. I lifted it up, polished it, turned it into something highly profitable. 12 restaurants. $45 million. Employees who depended on me. Families who ate because of the decisions I made every day from my discreet office downtown. And this woman. This Victoria Sterling, who thought she was the queen of the universe, had pushed my plate away like it was trash. I checked my phone. 3 minutes since the call. Nicholas should be arriving. And then I saw him. Nicholas Vance stepped out with the presence of a man accustomed to being in charge. Tall, confident, wearing a charcoal suit that clearly cost more than Victoria's entire wardrobe combined. Behind him came Julian Brooks, the floor manager. Julian was a nervous man by nature, but right now he looked like he was about to have a meltdown. They walked straight to table 12. Victoria looked up, slightly annoyed by the interruption. Yes? Julian cleared his throat. His hands were shaking. Excuse me, is one of you Mrs. Evelyn Hayes? Victoria laughed, a short, dismissive laugh. No, thank God. That woman already left. Why? Nicholas took a step forward. Allow me to introduce myself. Nicholas Vance, General Manager of Hayes Hospitality Group. He pulled out a business card and placed it on the table. Mrs. Evelyn Hayes is the president and sole owner of our company. The silence that followed was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Chloe stopped breathing. Lucas went pale. Victoria blinked. Once. Twice. Excuse me? Mrs. Hayes, Nicholas continued, his voice professional but ice-cold, is the owner of this restaurant, and 11 other establishments across the city. Hayes Hospitality Group has an estimated value of $45 million. Julian opened his tablet with trembling hands. Today's reservation was made by Mrs. Hayes personally. Table number 12. Under her corporate account, he showed the screen to Victoria. There it was, clear as day. VIP reservation, E. Hayes, President, HHG, Table 12, 2:00 p.m., CEO. Victoria's face went from pale white to a sickly green. Her lips trembled. The hand holding her wine glass began to shake so violently the liquid spilled onto the white tablecloth. That is. She couldn't finish the sentence. Impossible? Nicholas smiled. But it was not a kind smile. I assure you, it is entirely real. Mrs. Hayes built this business with her late husband 40 years ago. After his passing, she took full control. She has been an exceptional leader, discreet, but exceptional. Chloe had dropped her phone. But she lives in Bridgeport, in a tiny apartment. She shops at discount stores. Her clothes, that is her choice, Nicholas cut in. Mrs. Hayes prefers to live simply. It is not my place to judge my boss's personal decisions, but it is my responsibility to enforce her instructions. The word boss dropped like a bomb. Lucas finally found his voice. My mother is the owner of all this, and much more, Julian confirmed. The Belvedere is just one of our locations. We have a presence in River North, Lincoln Park, West Loop, Lakeview. Victoria stood up abruptly. Her chair tipped backward with a loud crash that made every nearby table turn to look. This is ridiculous. That woman cannot be. She is. She is a... What? Nicholas stared her down. A humble woman? A widow who dresses simply? Someone you thought you could look down on? The venom in his tone was unmistakable. Mrs. Hayes continued. She instructed me to inform you of the following. You are no longer welcome on any of our properties. Not in this restaurant, nor in the other 11. The ban is effective immediately and will last for 6 months. After that time, you may request that the restriction be lifted. You cannot do that, Victoria shrieked. Her voice had lost all its elegant composure. It was high-pitched, desperate. This is discrimination. I will sue. I know lawyers. You are well within your rights, Nicholas replied without flinching. But I remind you that this is a private business. Mrs. Hayes has every right to decide who she serves, especially after you publicly humiliated her in her own establishment. Chloe started crying. Tears of sheer panic, not sadness. I didn't know, if I had known. What? Julian asked. Would you have treated her better? Would you have respected her? How interesting that respect only matters when there is money involved. Lucas stood up. His face was a mixture of shock, shame, and something that looked like horror. I need to talk to my mother. Where is she? You will have to ask her that yourself, Nicholas said. My job was only to deliver the message and ensure you understood the consequences of your actions. He turned on his heel and started to walk away. Julian followed, but before leaving, he turned back to the table. I suggest you leave. Your presence is making our other guests uncomfortable. And he was right. That entire section of the restaurant was staring at them, some with curiosity, others with blatant disgust. Tables were whispering, waiters were exchanging glances. Victoria tried to pull herself together. She lifted her chin, tried to walk with dignity toward the exit, but her legs were shaking so badly she stumbled in her own expensive heels. She had to grab onto a chair to keep from falling. Chloe followed her, her face buried in her hands, sobbing. And Lucas walked like a zombie, like someone who had just discovered his entire reality was a lie. When they reached the entrance, the valet handed Victoria her car keys. She took them with trembling hands. She got into her car, turned the engine on, but she did not move. She just sat there, gripping the steering wheel, her glazed eyes staring into the void. Because in that exact moment, Victoria Sterling understood something fundamental. Her entire little world of facades and pretensions had just collapsed. The woman she had treated like trash turned out to be 1,000 times more powerful than she was. And the worst part was that that woman had had the power to humiliate her from day one. But she chose not to. She chose to give them chances. She chose to be kind. She chose to tolerate. Until they crossed the line. Inside the car, Chloe was sobbing. "Mom, what are we going to do? Lucas is going to divorce me. I know it. I saw how he looked at his mom when she walked out." Victoria did not answer. She couldn't. Because for the first time in her life, she had no answers, no excuses, no one to blame but herself. And that was the worst punishment of all. Lucas found me 40 minutes later. I was still at the park, sitting under the oak tree. I had bought a warm, soft pretzel from a street vendor and was eating it slowly, savoring every bite. The vendor had given me extra mustard, on the house, without me even asking. "To make it taste better, ma'am," he told me with a toothy smile. I saw Lucas run across the street. He dodged 2 cars that honked at him. He didn't care. He had this look of absolute desperation. When he reached me, he stopped, panting, with his hands on his knees like he had just run a marathon. "Mom." I didn't answer. I kept eating my pretzel. "Mom, please, I need us to talk." "Sit down, Lucas." I pointed to the empty space next to me on the bench. He sat down, and then I saw something I had not seen in years. I saw my son cry, not silent tears, full-on sobbing, heaving sobs that shook his shoulders, his face red, his eyes swollen. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" His voice broke on every word. "Why did you let me believe you barely had enough to live?" I finished my pretzel. I wiped my hands with a paper napkin. I threw it in the nearby trash can. Only then did I look at him. "Because I wanted you to love me for being your mother, not for my money. But I do love you. I have always loved you. Do you?" My voice was calm, too calm. "Did you love me when your mother-in-law slammed the hospital door in my face? Did you love me when Chloe laughed at my clothes? Did you love me an hour ago when Victoria humiliated me in public and you just sat there like a statue?" He buried his face in his hands. I know. And I hate myself for it. I was a coward, the worst son in the world. But Mom, I was scared. Scared of what? Of losing Chloe, of her getting mad, of causing problems, and losing me? I looked right into his eyes. "Didn't that scare you?" He couldn't hold my gaze. "Lucas, I raised you alone. Your father died when you were 23. I worked day and night so you wouldn't lack anything. So you could study. So you could have opportunities. And I never, ever asked you for a single thing in return. Because that is what mothers do. They love unconditionally. I know. No, you don't know. I stood up. He stood up too. Because if you knew, you would have defended me. The first time Chloe disrespected me, you would have set a boundary. When Victoria treated me like garbage, you would have said, "This is my mother, and you will respect her, or we are leaving." But you didn't. You chose a fake peace over my dignity. You are right. About everything. I was selfish, weak. But Mom, please? He dropped to his knees in front of me. On the grass. His expensive suit pants getting stained with dirt. Give me the chance to fix this. To be the son I should have been from the start. I looked at him there, on his knees, and my heart shattered. Because he was my son, my only son. The little boy who used to run to me when he scraped his knee at the park. The teenager who cried on my shoulder when his heart was broken for the first time. The man who would hug me on Sundays and say, "I love you, Mom," without me having to ask. But he was also the man who had failed me. "Get up, Lucas." He stood. "I need you to understand something. For 40 years, I built an empire. Alone. After your father died, everyone expected me to fail, to sell, to give up. But I didn't. Because I am stronger than anyone imagines." I pulled out my phone. I opened my banking app. I showed him the balance. $45,352,122.47. His eyes went wide as saucers. "This," I continued, "is just the liquid assets. It doesn't include the properties, the restaurants, the investments. I have enough money to live comfortably for the rest of my life. To leave you an inheritance that would let you retire tomorrow if you wanted. To pay for Harper's entire education through college. Mom, but the money isn't the point, is it? It never was. The point is respect, dignity, genuine love that doesn't depend on bank accounts or social status." I put my phone away. "Lucas, I love you. You are my son and you always will be. But I am not coming back into your life if Chloe and Victoria are still in it." He froze. "Are you asking me to get a divorce?" "No. I am asking you to make a choice. A conscious decision about what kind of life you want to live, with what kind of people, under what values. But Harper deserves to grow up watching her father stand up for what is right, respecting others, treating people with dignity regardless of their appearance or bank account. Is that what she is learning right now? Watching how her mother and maternal grandmother treat people?" He couldn't answer. "I am not rushing you," I said, softer now. "Take your time. Think about it. Talk to Chloe. See if she can really change. If Victoria can learn anything from this. But in the meantime..." "What?" "I need distance. Time to heal. To remember who I am beyond just being your mother." The tears returned to his eyes. "For how long?" "I don't know. As long as I need." He started pacing in circles, pulling at his hair. "This is my fault. All of it. If I had just been stronger, if I had set boundaries from the beginning." "Yes, I agreed. But what matters now isn't the past. It's what you are going to do differently from here on out." He stopped in front of me. "Can I hug you?" I thought about it. Part of me wanted to say no. I wanted him to feel the rejection I had felt. But he was my son, and a mother's love is complicated. Yes, he hugged me, tight, desperate, as if he feared I would disappear if he let go. "I am sorry," he whispered in my ear. "I am so sorry, Mom. I am going to fix this. I promise you. Promises are easy. Actions are hard." I pulled away from him. "Go home, Lucas. Think. Decide. And when you are ready to talk, you call me." "What if Chloe wants to talk to you? Apologize? If her apologies are genuine, I will listen. But, Lucas, I have lived long enough to know the difference between real remorse and panicking over consequences." He understood. He walked away toward his car. Halfway there, he turned back. "Mom, do you hate me?" "No, son. I could never hate you. But I am very, very disappointed." "And that? That hurts more than hate." I watched him get into his car. "Start the engine. Drive away." I sat back down on the bench. The sky was turning orange. It would be dark soon. I pulled out my phone. I had 17 missed calls, 12 from Lucas, 5 from unknown numbers that were probably Chloe or Victoria. I ignored all of them. I dialed another number. My best friend, Barbara. I had known her for 30 years. She actually knew the truth about my life. "Evie, are you okay?" "Barb," I said. "Something huge happened today. Tell me." And I told her. Everything. From the restaurant, to the reveal, to the conversation with Lucas. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. "You know what I think, Evie?" "What?" "I think today you got something back that you had lost." "My dignity?" "No, you never lost that. You got your voice back. And that is worth more than all the millions in the world." I smiled. For the first time in hours, a real smile. You are right, Barb. You are absolutely right. The next few days were a deafening silence. Lucas didn't call. Chloe didn't either. It was as if they had fallen into a black hole, and I was on the other side, watching the void. But other things did happen. On Monday morning, Nicholas called my cell. Mrs. Hayes, you have 3 messages at the office. From who? All from a Victoria Sterling. She says it is urgent that she speaks with you, that there has been a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? What a convenient word. Delete them, I ordered. All of them? All of them. And if she calls back, tell her Mrs. Hayes is permanently unavailable for her. Understood. But Victoria didn't give up that easily. On Tuesday, she showed up at my building. Frank, the super, buzzed me on the intercom. Miss Evie, there is a lady down here claiming to be your family. Should I let her up? What is her name? Victoria Sterling. Of course. No, Frank. She is not family. And I do not want to see her. She says she is not leaving until you come down and talk to her. I looked out the window. There she was, standing on the sidewalk, wearing a dress that probably cost what Frank made in 3 months. But something was different. She didn't have her sunglasses on. She didn't have that queen-like posture. She looked small. I went down. Not for her, but because I didn't want her causing a scene that would bother my neighbors. When I walked out of the building, she ran toward me. Well, tried to run. The heels didn't help. Evelyn, thank you. Thank you for talking to me. I didn't say anything. I just looked at her. I need you to understand. I didn't know who you really were. If I had known. If you had known what? I interrupted. Would you have treated me with respect? Would you have treated me like a human being instead of trash? How sad that respect only kicks in when there is money on the table. She turned pale. I didn't mean it like that. It is just that. I came from the bottom too. I had to fight tooth and nail to get where I am. And sometimes I misjudge people. Fight? I looked her up and down. Victoria, I know exactly who you are. Do you think I didn't look into you after we met? You organize small parties for acquaintances. You tell people you are a successful businesswoman when you actually live paycheck to paycheck. You are $50,000 in credit card debt with 3 different banks because you insist on keeping up a facade you cannot afford. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again like a fish out of water. How? I have resources, and when someone mistreats my family, I investigate. I found out some very interesting things, like how your exclusive business runs right out of your living room, how the Harrington wedding was for a distant cousin, and all you did was book the hall, how you have lied to Chloe about your financial status her entire life. The tears began to fall down her face, tears that ruined her perfect makeup. Please, don't tell Chloe. She would die if she knew. She already knows. What? I sent her a full report, with numbers, dates, evidence, because if I am going to be judged for my finances, she might as well know the truth about yours. Victoria swayed. She had to lean against a streetlight. You are going to destroy me. No. My voice was firm. You destroyed yourself. I am just removing the mask. She tried to grab my hand. I pulled away. Evelyn, please. I am begging you. I have debts, creditors calling me day and night, I thought. I thought if Chloe married well, if Lucas… What? You could bleed him dry? I pulled out my phone. I showed her screenshots of text messages between her and Chloe that my security team had recovered. Messages where they planned to ask Lucas for loans to give to her, where they talked about cashing in on the old lady when she croaks. She turned green. I also saw this one. I showed her another message. One where Victoria told Chloe, keep her away. The lonelier she feels, the faster she will die, and Lucas will inherit everything. The silence that followed was absolute. Victoria's eyes filled with sheer terror. I didn't mean it. It was just. I was frustrated. I would never. Get away from my building, Victoria. My voice was ice. Before I call the police, please, just listen. Frank, I called out. The super stepped outside immediately. If this woman ever shows up here again, call the authorities. Understood? Yes, miss. Evie. Victoria backed away, stumbling, crying. But I didn't feel any pity for her anymore. Just exhaustion. One last thing, I told her before she left. That 6-month ban from my restaurants? It is now permanent. For you and Chloe, you will never set foot in any of my establishments again. She ran off. Well, tried to. Her heels betrayed her, and she almost fell, but she kept going, disappearing around the corner like the shadow she always was. I went back up to my apartment. I poured myself some chamomile tea. I sat in my favorite armchair. The phone rang. Lucas. This time I answered. Mom? Tell me. Chloe showed me the messages. The ones you sent her? I am in shock. I cannot believe my mother-in-law and my wife, that they planned. He couldn't finish the sentence. Believe it, Lucas, because it is real. I could hear him crying on the other end. I am getting a divorce. I didn't say anything. I don't know if you want to hear this because you think I owe it to you, or because I genuinely believe it is the right thing to do, but I am divorcing her. Chloe showed her true colors when she found out about the money. She suddenly tried to be sweet, asking for forgiveness, saying it was all a big misunderstanding. But I saw those messages, Mom. I saw what she really thought of you, of me, of our family. And Harper? I am fighting for full custody. Chloe isn't a bad mother, but I refuse to let my daughter grow up learning that it is okay to use people, that money defines human value. I felt something loosen in my chest. Not relief, but hope. Lucas? Yes? That is the first step. But only the first. You have to work on yourself. On why I let them get so far? On why I chose to stay quiet when I should have spoken up. I know. I already booked a therapist. First session is on Friday. That surprised me. In a good way. I am glad to hear that, son. Can I see you? Bring Harper? She is almost 4 months old and you barely know her, because Chloe always. Yes, I said before he could finish, but somewhere neutral. Washington Square Park. Saturday at 11. I will be there. Mom, thank you for not giving up on me, for giving me this chance. Children can disappoint us, Lucas, but a mother's love is stubborn. It keeps existing despite everything. We hung up. I stared at the ceiling of my apartment, the cracks I never fixed, the peeling plaster in the corner, the water stain near the window. I could move, buy a penthouse in the Gold Coast, live in luxury. But no, this apartment was my anchor, my reminder, that a person's worth is not in the walls that surround them, but in the heart that beats inside them. And my heart? My heart was learning to heal. Saturday dawned with a clear sky. One of those city mornings where the air is still clean and the noises are friendly. I got to Washington Square Park at 10:30, half an hour early. My nerves had woken me up at 6. I changed clothes 3 times. Finally, I settled on a lavender blouse and jeans. Nothing elegant, nothing to impress, just me. The park was full of families, kids running, couples walking, seniors doing Tai Chi under the trees. Life in its simplest, most beautiful form. I sat on a bench near the fountain, watched the ducks paddle by. I remembered bringing Lucas here when he was a little boy, how he loved feeding them, how he laughed when the ducks fought over the bread. Mom? I turned around. There he was. My son. Thinner, dark circles under his eyes, but with something different in his gaze, something that looked like clarity. In his arms he held Harper, my granddaughter. Tears filled my eyes before I could stop them. Hi, sweetie. Hi, Mom. He sat next to me. He handed Harper to me carefully. She wants to meet her real grandma. I took the baby in my arms. 4 months old. Dark brown eyes. Dark, curly hair. A toothless smile that melted my heart. Hello, my love, I whispered. I am your Grandma Evie. Harper stared at me, intently. With that deep focus babies have when they study a new face. And then she smiled. I couldn't hold back the tears. Tears falling onto her pink blanket. Tears of joy, of relief, of pure love. Lucas put his hand on my shoulder. I am sorry, Mom. I am so sorry I kept you away from her. It doesn't matter anymore, I said. without taking my eyes off Harper. What matters is that she is here now. We spent 2 hours in that park. Lucas told me everything. How he confronted Chloe. How she denied it all at first. Then tried to justify herself. Finally admitting the truth. How his lawyers were already drafting the divorce papers. Victoria called me too, he said, crying, begging me to intervene for her. To ask you to forgive her. And what did you tell her? That my mother owes absolutely nothing to anyone. That she dug her own grave. That I never want to see her near my family again. Family. That word sounded different now. How is Chloe handling all of this? Lucas sighed. Angry. She says you overreacted. That Victoria was just joking in those texts. That it wasn't a big deal. Of course she says that. But I saw your face that day at the restaurant, Mom. I saw how she shoved your plate. How she humiliated you. And I sat there silently like an idiot. He rubbed his eyes. That wasn't not a big deal. It was cruel. And I allowed it. Harper started cooing. Those little baby sounds that mean nothing and everything all at once. Lucas, look at me. He looked at me. I am not going to lie to you. It hurt a lot. But I also understand you were in a tough spot. Trapped between 2 women you love. But I should have chosen you. Always. It is not about choosing me over her. It is about choosing to do the right thing over keeping a fake peace. It is about standing up for anyone who is being mistreated. Whether it is your mother or a stranger on the street. He nodded slowly. My therapist told me something similar. That I developed a pattern of avoiding conflict at all costs. That I prefer to stay quiet even when I see injustice. And what else did he tell you? That I have a lot of work to do. On myself. On how I relate to people. On setting healthy boundaries. He paused. He also said, it is likely I subconsciously chose Chloe because she allowed me to stay that little boy who avoids problems. Someone who would make decisions for me. That surprised me. My son speaking with that level of brutal honesty. That degree of self-analysis. I am glad you are in therapy. I should have done it years ago. After Dad died, I never really processed his death. I just kept going. Thinking that being okay meant never talking about it. Harper yawned. Her little eyes were drooping. The park, the sun, my voice. It was all lulling her to sleep. You know what I would like, Mom? What? To start over. With you. With myself. With Harper. Build a relationship based on honesty. Mutual respect. Not secrets or half-truths. I would like that too. Will you tell me more about the restaurants? About how you built everything? Yes. But not today. Today I just want to be with you too. Meet my granddaughter. Breathe this air. Be a grandmother. He smiled. You know, I have never seen you like this, so, at peace. I looked down at Harper sleeping in my arms. Her soft breathing. Her tiny hands balled into little fists. Because for the first time in years, Lucas, I am not pretending. I am not hiding. I am not being invisible to protect myself. I am just being me. Completely. And that brings peace. We sat in silence. A comfortable silence. The kind you can only share with people who truly know you. Mom, do you forgive me? I thought about it. I really thought about it. Yes. But forgiveness doesn't erase scars. We will have to work to rebuild the trust, little by little. I understand. And I will. I promise. Promises. There were the promises again. But this time, I wanted to believe him. Harper woke up crying. She was hungry. I brought her bottle, Lucas said, pulling out a thermal bag. Can I feed her? Of course. I gave Harper her bottle, watching her eat, watching her look up at me with those curious eyes while she drank her milk, feeling her warm weight in my arms. It was a happiness so pure it ached. She is going to grow up knowing you, Lucas said. For real. Not just in supervised visits or awkward dinners. She is going to spend weekends with you. She is going to learn how to bake with you. She is going to hear your stories. And if Chloe objects, she can't. The custody agreement stipulates that Harper spends time with her paternal family. And you are her family, Mom. The most important one. We finished walking around the park. Lucas told me about his plans. He wanted to move into a smaller apartment, get back to the basics. I think I lost myself trying to impress Chloe, living a lifestyle that wasn't even mine. I told him about my restaurants, about how we started with a tiny diner on the south side, how his father and I washed dishes until 3 in the morning, how every single penny counted. Would you teach me the business someday? Not to inherit it, but just to learn. That surprised me in the best way. You are interested? I am interested in knowing my mother. The real one, the businesswoman, the fighter, not just the mom who cooks great food. I smiled. Then yes, I would love to. When we said goodbye that afternoon, he hugged me tight. I love you, Mom, and I am going to prove it to you. Not with words, with actions. That is all I ask, son. I watched him walk away with Harper, watched him buckle her into her car seat, watched him give her a kiss on the forehead before closing the door. And I knew we were going to be okay. Not perfect, not without scars. But okay. 3 years later, I am standing in my office, the real one, the one nobody knew about, the 15th floor of a high-rise downtown, floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the entire city. A mahogany desk I inherited from Thomas. Pictures of Harper everywhere. Harper is 3.5 now. She talks like a parrot. She calls me Grandma Evie. She spends weekends with me. She loves helping me bake chocolate chip cookies. She says when she grows up, she wants to have restaurants like my grandma. Lucas is still in therapy. He just hit the 2-year mark. He says it is the best thing he has ever done for himself. He is dating someone new. A woman named Sarah, an architect like him, down to earth, kind. She brought me flowers the first time we met and asked about my life before talking about hers. The divorce with Chloe was finalized 18 months ago. It was ugly. There was yelling, tears, attempts at manipulation, but Lucas stood his ground. Joint custody fell 70% to 30% in his favor when the judge saw evidence that Chloe had tried to alienate him from his mother. I haven't heard from Victoria directly, but word reached me that she had to declare bankruptcy. She lost her house. She now lives with a sister in Milwaukee. Chloe had to get a real job, an administrative assistant, at an event planning company. Ironic. But me, I decided to do something with all of this. I pressed the intercom. Maya, have the 1 o'clock guests arrived? Yes, Mrs. Hayes. They are in the boardroom. I'll be right there. I walk down the hallway. Walls decorated with photos of all my restaurants, awards, plaques for culinary excellence, articles from hospitality magazines. But my greatest pride is in the boardroom. I walk in. There are 12 women sitting around the table, all over 60, all with stories etched into their faces. Good afternoon, ladies. Welcome to the Hayes Foundation for Senior Women, the foundation I started 2 years ago. With a chunk of my fortune, $10 million, dedicated to supporting older women who are victims of familial, economic, or emotional abuse. We provide free legal counsel, psychological support, help finding housing if they need to escape abusive situations, job training to re-enter the workforce. And every month, I sit down with a new group of beneficiaries. I tell them my story, the real one, without filters. My name is Evelyn Hayes, I begin, as always, and for years I made myself invisible because I thought it would protect me from the pain. But the pain came anyway. I tell them about Victoria, about Chloe, about the pushed plate in the restaurant. I see some of them nodding, recognizing their own stories in mine. But I learned something fundamental, I continue. Dignity is not something you beg for, you demand it. And nobody, absolutely nobody, has the right to treat us as less than human just because we are older, because we are women, because we don't have as much money as someone else. One of the women raises her hand. Her name is Ruth, 72 years old. Her children tried to put her in a nursing home just to keep her house. How did you find the courage to fight back? She asks. By hitting rock bottom, I answer honestly. Sometimes we need to fall completely flat to remember that we have legs that can pick us back up. We need our plates pushed away to remember that we also have the right to sit at the table. Another woman, Helen, 68 like me, speaks up. My daughter-in-law tells me I am a burden, that I am in the way, that my son would be better off without me. I walk over to her. I take her hand. Listen to me, Helen. You are not a burden. You are a woman who lived, who fought, who survived. And if they cannot see your worth, the problem isn't you. It is their blind eyes. We spend 2 hours in that room, sharing stories, crying, laughing, planning strategies. When they leave, they all carry a folder with legal information, phone numbers for therapists, a list of shelters if they need them. And more importantly, the certainty that they are not alone. Maya walks in after they leave. Mrs. Hayes, you have a call. Who is it? A blocked number, but she says it is urgent. I hesitate, but I pick up. Hello? Evelyn? The voice is shaky, scared. It is Chloe. I haven't spoken to her in 3 years. What do you want, Chloe? I need to talk to you, in person, please. Why? Silence. Then, because I was wrong. About everything. And I need your help. I could say no, hang up, block the number, but I remember the 12 women who just walked out of my office. I remember that everyone deserves a second chance if they have truly changed. Where are you? At the coffee shop downstairs in your building. So she knew where I worked. Interesting. I will be down in 10 minutes. I hang up. I look at myself in my office bathroom mirror. 68 years stare back at me. But now I like these wrinkles. Each one tells a story, a battle, a victory. I head downstairs. Chloe is at a table in the back. She looks different. No makeup, simple clothes. Her hair pulled back in a ponytail. Thinner, with deep bags under her eyes. I sit across from her. Thank you for coming, she says immediately. I know I don't deserve even 5 minutes of your time. No, you don't. But you have them. Use them wisely. She takes a deep breath. I have been in therapy. A lot of therapy. Working on everything. On why you behaved the way you did. On why you followed your mother blindly. On why you treated me like trash. And what did you find out? That I was terrified. Terrified of not being enough. That Lucas would realize I didn't come from the world I pretended to. My mother taught me from a young age that the most important thing is to look successful, even if you are not. That people only respect you if they think you have money. She takes a sip of her coffee. Her hands are shaking. When I saw you, with your simple clothes, your modest apartment, your simple life, I saw everything my mother taught me to despise, and attacking you was easier than facing my own insecurities. That doesn't justify anything. I know. I am not justifying it. I am just explaining. Tears start to fall. I lost everything, Evelyn. Lucas. My marriage. My relationship with my daughter. My mother is ruined, and she blames me. And the worst part, the absolute worst part, is that you were right about everything. I don't say anything. I just wait. I didn't come here to ask for your forgiveness, because I know I don't deserve it. I came to say thank you. That surprises me. Thank you? For not destroying me completely when you could have. For banning me from your restaurants for only 6 months instead of forever like my mother. For giving me the chance to see who I really was before it was too late. She wipes her tears with a paper napkin. I am working. Really, earning my own money, learning to live without facades. And I want Harper to grow up knowing her paternal grandmother, the real one. Because you can teach her things I never could, values I didn't have. We sit in silence. You know what the funniest part is? She says finally. That you, living in that modest apartment, were 100 times richer than my mother with all her showing off. Because you had something real, something you built. While we only had smoke. I finish my coffee. Chloe, I appreciate you coming. I appreciate that you are working on yourself. But I need you to understand something. What? My relationship with Harper does not depend on you. I don't need your permission to be her grandmother. Lucas already made sure of that legally. She nods. I know. And I am glad. She needs good people in her life. And you are good, even if I couldn't see it back then. I stand up to leave. Evelyn. I stop. I am not asking us to be family, not even friends. I just wanted you to know that I am sorry, truly, and that I am going to spend the rest of my life trying to be better, for Harper, for me. I look at her. I see something in her eyes I had never seen before. Genuine humility. Then I wish you luck, Chloe. I really do. I walk out of the coffee shop. Outside, the afternoon sun paints everything gold. I walk down the busy street. I walk past one of my restaurants, the little diner on the south side, where it all started. I walk in. The chef greets me with a huge smile. Miss Evie, we didn't know you were coming in today. Just coming in to remember. I sit at a table by the window, the same one where Thomas and I used to sit and plan, and dream, and build. I order a black coffee, a donut, just like we used to back then. And as I savor it, I think about the entire journey, the humiliations I survived, the tears I shed, the hospital where I almost gave up, the restaurant where I finally said enough. But I also think about what came after, the foundation, the women we helped, the rebuilt relationship with Lucas, my granddaughter who calls me Grandma Evie and hugs me like I am the best place in the world. I take out my phone. I open my gallery. There is a picture from a week ago. Harper, Lucas, Sarah, and me at the park. Everyone laughing, everyone happy. A family. Not perfect, but real. I call Lucas. Mom? Son? What are you guys doing this Sunday? Nothing in particular. Why? I want us to come here, to the original diner on the south side. I want to show Harper where it all started. Tell her the story of her grandparents. Teach her that true wealth is not in what you own, but in what you refuse to let them take from you. I can hear his smile through the phone. We would love that, Mom. What time? 2 in the afternoon. And come hungry. I'm going to ask them to make the slow-cooked pot roast. The one your dad loved. Perfect. I love you, Mom. I love you too, son. I hang up. I look out the window. The street is full of people, each person with their own story, their own battles, their own pending victories. And I think, how many of those women are suffering what I suffered? How many feel invisible? How many believe they don't deserve respect because they don't have enough money, enough youth, enough whatever? Too many. But the foundation is growing. Next month we are opening another branch in Dallas, then Atlanta. We are going to keep helping. One woman at a time, one pushed plate at a time. I finish my coffee. I leave a generous tip for the waitress. She is my age. She has worked here since we opened 40 years ago. Thank you, Miss Evie. Very kind, as always. Thank you, Betty, for all these years. I walk out of the restaurant. I walk back to my office, and with every step, I feel something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Because in the end, the story was never about money. It never was. It was about dignity. About knowing your worth. About refusing to be invisible just because someone else decided not to see you. It was about remembering that respect is not begged for. It is demanded. And sometimes, when someone pushes your plate away, the best response isn't to scream. It is to stand up with dignity. Walk out with your head held high. Make a phone call and remind them who really holds the power. Not for revenge, but to teach them that true wealth isn't in what you possess. It is in what you refuse to let them take away. Your dignity, your worth, your voice. And that is something no one can ever take from you, unless you let them. Final reflection. If this story touched your heart, if you identified with Evelyn, if you have ever felt like someone made you invisible, let me tell you something. You have worth. Not because of your bank account. Not because of your age. Not because of your clothes or your house or your car. You have worth because you are human. Because you have a history. Because you survived. And nobody, absolutely nobody, has the right to make you feel like less. Tell me, have you ever had to defend your dignity in front of someone who underestimated you? What did you do? Leave it in the comments. I would love to read your story. And if this confession made you reflect, like, share, and subscribe to keep discovering life stories that remind us of what truly matters. Let me know where you are watching from. That way I will know this story reached you, reached your city, and reached your heart, because in the end, we all deserve a seat at the table, not as tolerated guests, but as the valuable people we truly are. Never forget that. The end.